Okay. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the podcast Healer Heal Yourself, Reduce Burnout, Discover Your Creativity While You Heal Others. And my name is Dr. Isla Bates. I'm the host of the podcast. And today I have a medical student by the name of Aanchal Shah, and she's going to talk about her creative endeavors. So welcome to the podcast, Aanchal.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. As she mentioned, my name is Aanchal. I'm a medical student with the Florida State University College of Medicine. I just finished my third year. I'm about to start my fourth year, and I could not be more excited to be talking to you today.
Oh, good. So tell the audience a little bit about how you discovered what I was doing and what inspired you to contact me.
I've always been very interested in arts medicine, and I started an arts medicine program at my school. And one of the things that we do is we contact people who are doing really incredible things in the field and ask them to be a guest speaker at one of our events. And a while ago, I had come across your name, and I think I tried to email probably an old email address that was linked to something, never got a response. But then I came across the art subcommittee and noticed it was the same name. So I was like, this has got to be fate. This is destiny of some kind. And I just decided to reach out again to the updated email. And I joined the art subcommittee, and we've been connected ever since.
Oh, great. And that's the art subcommittee of the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, where I am the co-chair of that committee. And we have a lot of residents, medical students, and doctors, attendings who are interested in the creative arts and incorporating the arts in some way. It's really exciting to have you because I think you're incredibly accomplished. As a medical student, you've started programs, you've written a children's book. So yeah, let's hear a little bit about what you did. Um, and yeah, and your children's book and everything else. I'd love to know more.
Awesome. So this is quite the story, so sit tight. So I have been a dancer my whole life. My mom actually runs a Bollywood dance school, so that's a lot of where my passion for the arts kind of started. But I grew up like competing in jazz, tap, ballet, modern lyrical, Bollywood, of course. Um, and it's always been something that I used as my outlet throughout high school. And I don't think I really necessarily knew that I was using it as an outlet, but I was for sure. And my senior year of high school, my mom actually had my youngest sister, who is now 7, but at that time she was just born. And during that time period, my mom ended up getting postpartum depression. And that was my first introduction to mental health in general. Um, so I kind of saw firsthand not only how much mental health can impact the person, but also the family, especially if it's like the matriarch or the patriarch of the family who's getting affected. So not only did I see my mom go through that, my other sister, who was 10 years old at the time, she ended up developing pretty severe anxiety from that experience. So that was my initial introduction to the mental health realm. But during that time, I remember the only thing I felt like I could do to help my family was to dance like we'd been doing for several years. Before all of this happened, we would always do like little dance parties in our house. So I remember one day just deciding that it was time to start doing dance parties again. And so we did little dance parties every week, and slowly but surely I noticed my mom started to get out of bed and dance with us a little bit more. And I noticed that my sister had fewer panic attacks. So that was my first indication that there is a real meaning and power behind the arts and medicine. And that the thing in the back of my head that always told me that dance was calming me down maybe wasn't just something that was in my brain. It could be something that is more than that. So I ended up switching my major to psychology, and I started my undergraduate career at the University of Florida. And while I was there, I came across the Center for Arts and Medicine, where they truly do just incredible things there. But I was able to join their research team, and I was on the research team for 4 years. And during that time period, I came across research that showed that dance can help individuals with Down syndrome, not only with their fine motor skills, but also their gross motor skills, cognitive skills, and social emotional well-being. I thought it was incredible research, and I was so surprised that there wasn't already a program that was utilizing this research and putting it into the community. So, my friends and I started this program called Down to Dance. We are a free, evidence based dance program for individuals with Down syndrome. And essentially, what we do is we have students who are in the Dance and Medicine program, which is the program that I was in at UF. They have a practicum where they get to choreograph for a specific patient community. So we have them choreograph essentially dance series for individuals with Down syndrome. And we teach those classes to these individuals, not just in Florida, but all over the nation. We've been able to offer our program to 58 locations across the US, which has been really, really exciting because not only have we been able to see an impact in our own little community, we've also been able to see an impact in kiddos just enjoying dance all over the nation. So that's been a really, really great experience and also pushed me further into wanting to do psychiatry. But in undergrad, I didn't just do arts and medicine stuff. I was also on a competitive national dance team. It was a folk Indian dance team called Gator Ross, and I was also captained a Bollywood fusion team. So dance was just everywhere, all over, written all over me, just like it had been in high school and middle school. But med school was the first time where I was like, oh man, I don't think I have enough time to dance. And so when I first started med school, that transition was really tough on me because something that I had been using as my outlet for so long, I felt like I couldn't use any longer. But I noticed a very clear difference, not only in my mental health, but also my productivity and my efficiency without having that outlet that had essentially sustained me for so long. Not only did my quality of living go down, but also my ability to be the student that I know I could be went down. So in medical school, I decided, all right, clearly I need dance back in my life. So I went looking for volunteer opportunities where I could do something like I had done at UF with Down to Dance, where I could essentially at least dance with the community. And I couldn't find anything. So I teamed up with some faculty members and gathered a group of like-minded students in my class, and we created Florida State's first arts and medicine program. And it's been so awesome being able to partner with fellow classmates who have similar interests because I obviously love dance, but I have classmates who love music. I have classmates who love the fine arts. So we were able to create several different programs that gave back to the Tallahassee community. And some of those include dance for Parkinson's classes, music for Alzheimer's program. We did several fine art projects with geriatric populations and pediatric populations. One that comes to mind is we actually were able to ask these patients at I think it was a senior citizen center. We asked them what makes them the happiest, and we had them paint on a 4x4 tile what makes them the happiest. And we were able to put all those tiles together and create a mural that's now showcased in our medical school, which is super exciting. And it's a great reminder as to why we're all putting ourselves through medical school. It's for the patients on the other end of our journey. And we were able to make a similar mural with patients in the rehab center that is now up in the hospital in Tallahassee as well.
I
So
wonderful. That's so wonderful.
thank you so much. So that's a little bit of how my arts and medicine journey kind of was resurrected in medical school. But the really cool part about it is that the way my medical school works is that we have a regional campus system. So like after your first 2 years in Tallahassee, you essentially go to a different city to complete your training. And the cool part about that is that we created such a cool arts and medicine community back at Tallahassee that several people who were on that original board decided to go on and continue their arts and medicine journey at these campuses. So we have arts and medicine programs in Pensacola, in Sarasota, in Marianna, all these cities in Florida, which is so cool because it really just started out with that one idea. And now here in Orlando, which is where I'm at right now, I've been fortunate enough to start a few arts and medicine programs here, which have been very exciting. But I know I've been talking for a while, so I'm going to pause there.
Oh, well, I think it's amazing that you've started all these programs and really were inspired by your dance history, and realizing that you needed that to really help you get through some of the hard times. Um, how does one start a program? Because I'm sure there are people out there who are like, I want to do that. So can you tell us, like, how does this start?
That's a great question. I think it really has to do with finding people who support your idea.
Yeah.
Um, for me, I've been fortunate enough to not have funding be an issue because I was able to partner with the Chapman Foundation in Tallahassee. And the Chapman Foundation essentially sponsors projects that value humanities and medicine. So we've been able to get our funding for our arts and medicine programming through the Chapman Foundation. So that has been incredibly helpful for us. And I'm not saying that you need funding because you definitely don't. A dance for Parkinson's class does not need any funding if you have the appropriate training. Um, but for us to do things like murals and stuff, that wouldn't have been possible without support from people who share similar interests, like the Chapman Foundation.
Mhm.
So, what I would say is start with finding people who have similar drive and similar interests. So, for me, not only was it the Chapman Foundation, but it was also creating that board of 16 medical students who all had some interest in the arts or some history of the arts, and being able to start out with a really strong team meant that it wasn't just one person's ideas that were getting tossed into the bowl. It was everyone's ideas, and also just everyone's little tidbits on how we can make things happen, whether it's someone's grandpa who is affiliated with the Alzheimer's organization in Tallahassee that could help us get connected with the right people, or if it was just someone's skill set of being able to play the piano, and having a keyboard that we can take with us to different senior centers to go and play. I think the very first step is to get a community going, whether that's a community of 2 people or 15 people. Get a community going of people who have similar interests, and then go from there.
I love that. That's so inspiring. Um, and wonderful. Wow, I'm impressed. So I think that one of the things that happens is now that you're going from medical school to residency, which is going to be tough, right? It's going to be really, really hard to keep up with the arts. Do you have any sort of idea how you might do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I've actually been thinking about that quite a bit because, as we've seen in the past, the arts are incredibly important to me. And it's something that I really do think I want to keep up throughout my whole life if possible. Very recently, actually, I was able to partner with the Orlando Ballet here to create a maternal mental health dance series where we actually created these dance tutorials where moms can dance with their babies in baby carriers, and that was such a cool experience to be able to facilitate. And it was all based on research that shows that not only is postpartum blues incredibly common, about 80% of moms get postpartum blues, but 15% of those moms end up getting postpartum depression. And a lot of research shows that exercise can help alleviate some of those symptoms of postpartum depression. So we wanted to give moms an accessible form of exercise that they could do from home and not feel like they're neglecting their baby, but instead kind of be able to connect with their baby throughout their exercise journey. Um, so just having in mind that I was able to partner with such a cool organization and do that in med school, it might not be realistic for me to go out and find a bunch of patients with Parkinson's and start doing classes with them. But being able to find other creative outlets where I can hopefully do some type of dance oriented thing, but also partner with community programs. So, for example, partnering with the New York Ballet to create something similar in New York, or the Boston Ballet to create something similar in Boston. I think doing something like that would be a lot more doable than saying, I'm going to start a massive arts and medicine program with 45 different programs. So just in my head, I guess, scaling it to what is realistic and will, I guess, achieve the same goal of not only making me happy, but impacting the community.
Yeah. And if you don't have the time, you can take 10 or 15 minutes, and have a dance party in your living room,
Right.
right?
Those are always on the table for sure.
I think, dance is wonderful because it not only incorporates movement, but it's also music. And music is also fundamentally healing as well. Can you talk a little bit about music and what you like, what sort of things you like to dance to?
Yeah, definitely. That's a loaded question for me because I think my interests in music really do range just based off of my mood.
Mm.
I think music has an immense impact on the choreography that I come up with. So for me, the type of music that I listen to depends on what I'm doing. So for me, if I'm studying, there's no music because the dancer in me cannot handle cannot handle studying and listening to music. I would just want to dance the whole time. But if I am doing a little dance party just for myself, then a lot of times my go-to is Bollywood music because that's what I grew up dancing to, and it just reminds me of home. So when I'm homesick, I'll also do Bollywood music. And but then if I'm choreographing for a specific patient population, for example, for our Dance for Parkinson's classes, we like to really pick music that resonates with the patients that we're working with. So we always ask them at the end of every class, like, what do you want to hear from us next? And a lot of times it's Whitney Houston, some Elvis Presley. So it really just, the music I listen to depends on, I guess, what I'm using it for, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it sounds like you're flexible too in terms of what you dance to.
Definitely. The range is full.
Right, right. It's the movement that's really important. Yeah, I remember when I was an inpatient psychiatrist and having a lot of expressive artists come onto the unit, the joy that I saw on the kids' faces was really inspiring to me. I'm sure that helps to motivate you as well when you see the joy.
It is huge. It is huge. I think there have been several people who have asked how how it is quote unquote possible to do arts and medicine while in medical school. And I think that is the answer, if that makes sense. Being able to see the impact that you're having on the community firsthand. It honestly all started with Down to Dance. I remember there was a very specific kiddo. She was adorable, but at our very first Down to Dance class, she was in the corner hiding and refused to come dance. And every single week, we started to grow a bond. I started to just teach her a few steps on the side, and I just watched her progression every single week, not only in her social emotional well-being, but also her confidence in herself. And by the end of our series that year, she actually was not only front and center, but she was leading the class. She had her own moves picked out. She was like, Anchal, I have a song. We have to start out our warm up today with this song. And she led our warm up which was huge. So being able to essentially see the impact that the arts have on the community and the patients that you're working with, is it definitely inspires me to keep going.
Yeah, I mean that seeing that is really powerful. I had a similar experience when I was in a singing workshop where we each had to find a song and sing in front of an audience. And it was terrifying, right? For most of us, it was terrifying. And I'm not a singer, but there was one woman who couldn't face the audience. Her back was to the audience. And the person who was leading the workshop was an incredible musician. So he would almost intuitively create words, lyrics based on the song that you had chosen, for you to sing. And this very shy person who couldn't face the audience slowly turned around and was able to face the audience and sing in front of us. There wasn't a dry eye. It was so moving to see this person evolve to the point where they could present themselves in some way. So I think that these examples are incredibly powerful and inspiring, hopefully, to other psychiatrists as well, because it's not always medicine that does the job. Music is medicine, dance is medicine, art, the visual arts are medicine, and unfortunately, too underutilized in the treatment. So yay, thank you so much for bringing this to the audience and these examples, because I think they're really powerful and memorable.
Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your story, because I think that just shows how universal the arts are. It's not just for the little kid who doesn't want to dance in class, it's for the adult who has always wanted to sing and maybe just needed that boost to
Mhm.
be able to do it. I think it speaks volumes as to the true power of arts and medicine, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the unfortunate thing is that the arts are the first thing to be taken away from schools, underserved neighborhoods. Art programs, community art programs are so important and fundamental to the well-being of the entire community. Um, so you've inspired me because, my lifelong dream is to have a community program, incorporating the arts for everyone, and also to have some mental health options too, and not make mental health have this stigma, but let's just kind of, bring some joy to the community, because that's important. I know you've written a children's book, and that's phenomenal. Also, another dream of mine. I mean, I'm gonna have to.
It is so wild saying that you say that. For me, you're doing everything that I want to do. So we're gonna have to chat a little bit more often so you can teach me how I can be you.
Yeah, same. I can learn from you and you can learn from me for sure.
Awesome. I'm loving it.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us about your children's book, because that's also wonderful and inspiring.
Well, thank you for saying that, and thank you for the children's book plug, because this really was just published like a few weeks ago. So
Right.
I wrote a book called Dr. Didi's Guide to Anxiety: An Art-Based Approach. And just a little bit of a background. So as I mentioned earlier, my little sister, during the time that my mom had postpartum depression, my little sister got pretty severe anxiety. And at that time, just kind of instinctually knowing that the arts have always been helpful in the past, we would do little dance parties, we would listen to music, we would color, we would do all these things. And I had always convinced myself that those things positively impacted her, because I know it positively impacted me. And it wasn't until I was researching with the Center for Arts Medicine that I learned that there was actual evidence-based research behind those methods that we were already using. And I thought it was just so cool, and it became a dream of mine to find a way to bring this evidence-based research to the general public, whether that was in the form of a children's book or something that I think a lot of people in the academic medical world we read research articles, we will look at the ACAP news, we'll do those things, but someone who's just like, dropping off their kid at daycare is probably not logging onto PubMed to see the the latest research. Um, so I wanted to find a way to essentially consolidate research on how the arts can help with symptoms of anxiety in a way that kids can digest and also parents can learn from. So in Hindi, the word for big sister is Didi. So I wanted to essentially, the book was inspired based off of the experiences I've had with my little sisters. So that's why the title of the book is Dr. Didi's Guide to Anxiety. And the story essentially follows three sisters who are learning on how to handle anxiety using art-based methods. So it teaches kids about mandalas, it teaches kids about collage making, about drawing and sharing your story. So that's a little bit about what the book is about, and it's been an incredible experience because not only was it a bucket list item for me, the characters in the book are based off of me and my sisters. So it's been so cool to kind of see miniature versions of us in cartoon form, like printed on a book. And it's just made the whole experience so much more special because it was essentially based on real life experiences that we've had. And it's now on Amazon if anyone's interested in looking into it. And it's also at the New York Public Library.
Wow, so congratulations. That's so awesome. I
Thank
love it.
you so much.
Was it self-published or did you get a publisher?
We worked with Amazon Publishing, so technically self-published.
Uh-huh. And who illustrated the book?
They're called his company is called Scribble Guides.
Oh, okay.
I honestly just Googled great illustrator and he's awesome.
Nice, nice. That's wonderful. Yeah, that's one of my dreams is to, I've written several children's books, but getting them like out the door is
I
the hard
know.
part.
I know. Honestly, Amazon makes it so accessible. If you have one ready to go, you should just hit the go button.
Okay. All right. Again, you're inspiring me, so I'll have to do that.
I appreciate it. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to reading it.
So it's wonderful to have a medical student on the podcast. You're the first medical student that I'm interviewing. And I think that this is a great place to start for any medical student. It's so easy to burn out early on, and we have to figure out ways to protect ourselves. And I think you figured it out. And I think just getting this message to other medical students is going to be really helpful. So if you're listening to the podcast, please share it with a medical student that you know, because I think it can be very inspiring to them. And it's funny, when I started many years ago, there was a push for bringing creatives into medicine, right? Dancers and everything else. And I think that on a whole, we tend to be more sensitive. Would you agree with that? I'm
I
losing
do
my
agree
voice.
with that. I know you're okay. I do agree with that. I feel like as a creative person, it's it's almost like I don't want to say a requirement, but it's almost a commonality that most creatives have because it's that sensitivity that's kind of where a lot of our creativeness comes from. Being able to be one with our emotions and also one with other people's emotions, being more receptive to other people's emotions. I think a lot of our inspiration comes because we were able to feed off of the energy we see around other people. And I don't think that happens unless you are a sensitive person.
Yeah. I also think it makes you a better observer too. You really notice things. And I think being able to notice things is really an important aspect of being a physician.
It's huge. It really is. And I'm actually working on a research project that is going into publication within the next week or two, where we looked at that at a more like I guess standardized clinical trial level, because we were looking at how a lot of medical students are lacking in their observational skills, their diagnostic skills. So a lot of people, so if you're far out from medical school, go back into your mind and think about the days when you first started, and think about if anyone ever genuinely taught you how to have observational skills, or did they just say, essentially figure it out. You should just, when you walk in, you should just know that this patient has X, Y, and Z going on. You should just know that. So my friends and I were like, well, what do you mean we should just know that? So we kind of noticed that there was a hole in the observational skills of medical students. And when we turned to the literature, other schools, like for example, the Yale School of Medicine, they actually use the arts to help students develop those skills. Like they have like annual trips to their art museum where they stand with curators from the museum and analyze pieces of art to help improve their observational skills,
Mhm.
which is so cool. And we were like, the study that we found was 20 years ago. So we were like, does this still apply in today's world where maybe museums are not walking distance from us? For example, it's not walking distance from our campus. So we wanted to see if it could be done virtually with fine art photography, kind of similar to how we have social media and there's pictures all around us. Like, can we be using those tools to help improve our observational skills? And we found success with specifically fine art photography.
Mm.
We had students like look at, essentially analyze fine art photography, and we graded their ability to observe dermatological clinical images before and after that intervention, and their ability to notice details increased tremendously after just one session of analyzing art. And I
Mhm.
think that speaks volumes to how art truly does make better observers. You're more attuned to looking at what's in front of you and picking out details.
Yes, absolutely. And that's a lot of the work that I do in my workshops because we do it through drawing. I think drawing forces one to observe. I mean, you will notice things that you wouldn't typically.
Right.
Um, yeah. So I think it's fantastic for that. And I hope that more medical students hear this so that, that they increase their skills that way too. I do think it increases empathy and and observation as well. Yeah, and there is research. There was some research with ophthalmology residents actually, and exposing them to art as well, museum-based art, and they found that they were better able to diagnose and observe after this intervention. So it's very powerful stuff.
Very, very
Um,
awesome stuff.
yeah. So you're starting your fourth year, which is a nice year because you get to go away to different rotations and see how other hospitals function and work. You're going to go off to Yale, right, to do an away rotation there,
Yeah.
which will be wonderful in psychiatry department.
Yes, it'll be with the Child Study Center.
Great. And where else will you be going? Anywhere else?
I've sent out a few more applications. Let's hope we hear back from some. That's, I feel like the process is always just daunting for everyone. I'm sure if any med students are listening to this and you're applying to away rotations, my heart's with you. It's a lot.
Yeah, the whole process can be daunting and very hard because there's so many unknowns, right? And so one of the things that I do in workshops is that we talk about uncertainty because when you're staring at a blank canvas or you're staring at the white page, right, or empty piece of paper, it's so you are dealing with uncertainty. You're facing uncertainty. And we need to get used to that because life is that way,
Yeah.
very uncertain. Um, so tell me anything else that you'd like to share with us in terms of
Wow.
the
Um,
art.
I feel like we have covered so much.
Yes.
We've covered a lot. I think it is super important for people to know that things like the art subcommittee exist, because for medical, yes, and CAPS art subcommittee is what I was referring to.
Mm.
Because for medical students like me who have an interest in the arts, it's so inspiring to hear from so many people who have been able to incorporate the arts into their careers. That's actually how our conversation started today, was because I was like, can you teach me everything that you've been doing for years? So I think, like, if there are medical students listening to this and you're interested in art in whatever field that you're working in, just, I mean, look up and see if there's an art subcommittee. There honestly probably is. There was a moment in time where I was really interested in radiology, and I was part of their art subcommittee, and they did incredible work. And that's the connection between radiology and art is not something that is the first that comes to your mind, but clearly it existed, and there were several people on that committee who have done so many cool things. In that realm. So I feel like, I think if there was a message that I wanted any student to get out of this, is to just do a little research to see if there is a committee that you can join, because it'll do wonders.
That's great advice. And also, if there isn't a subcommittee of some kind or an organization that you know of, then start one, you know. I'm sure that there are other people in your class who are artists of some kind, and get together, form a band, form a dance group, or just, gather around and do some drawing or painting. I think it's really important to your well-being. I know that when I reconnected with the arts, for people who know my story, fashion designer to doctor, to non-artist, because I was just doctoring. When I reconnected with the arts, that's really when I found my joy. And it also is very healing. So don't let go of it. Don't get too busy where you stop. Always keep that in your back pocket. So, Aanchal, I want to thank you so much for being on this podcast and sharing with everyone your experience. And I wish you the best of luck. I don't think I need to wish you luck, because you're definitely motivated and going in the right direction. Yeah, we'll be in touch. And if people want to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
I can give you my email, unless you want me to, should I spell
Um,
it
do
out?
you have a website or Instagram handle?
Yeah, you can get in touch with me. My Instagram handle is Miss Aanchal Shah, so MISSAANCHALSHAH. I know it's a lot of letters, but there's not that many Anchals out there. So if you type in the first few letters, I should pop up.
Okay.
And then my email is AAS21M
Oh,
at
okay. All right. I wasn't sure if you wanted to give your email publicly.
my email is fine. I don't care.
All right. Um, the other thing before you go is give us your definition of creativity.
A good question. I think my definition of creativity is the ability to not only be one with yourself, but be one with your surroundings. I think if you've achieved, quote unquote, being creative once you have let yourself express whatever is going on inside to the maximum capacity.
Mm,
That's my definition of creativity.
wonderful. So bringing what's inside outside. Nice. Love it.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Aanchal. It's been wonderful. So
Thank
glad.
you so much for having me on this podcast. It's an incredible honor. And I know this is not the last time we're going to be chatting, for sure.
Sure. Thank you so much. Okay. I will stop the recording, hopefully, maybe not.